Pagigi yung mga kanamuhan na board na Amerika sa noon. We try and stay on just one side of the road, not to cause any injury or damage to anybody. Be vocal with our slogan. Resist, defy, we will not comply. Resist, defy, we will not comply. Defy, we will not comply. Resist, 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 defy, we will not comply. No to force vaccines. No to force vaccines. My body, my choice. My body, my choice. No to force vaccines. No to force vaccines. My body, my choice. My body, my choice. No to force vaccines. No to force vaccines. My body, my choice. My body, my choice. No discrimination. No discrimination. No discrimination. No discrimination. No segregation. No segregation. No segregation. No more. Vaccines! My body, my choice! 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 No discrimination! No discrimination! No segregation! No segregation! No Resist, defy, we will not comply. Resist, my choice.
My body, my choice.
Never must resign.
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 Never must.
We will not comply. Resist. Defy. We will not comply. No discrimination.
No discrimination.
No discrimination.
No discrimination.
No discrimination.
No discrimination.
No segregation.
No segregation.
No segregation.
No segregation.
No segregation.
No segregation.
Defy. We will not comply.
Resist.
Defy. We will not comply.
Resist. Defy.
Morgan. Resist. Defy. We will not comply. Resist. Defy. We will not comply. Resist. Defy. We will not comply. My body, my choice.
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 We will not comply. No discrimination. We will not comply. Resist. Defy. We will not comply. Body, my choice.
My 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 body, my choice.
No to forced vaccines. No to forced vaccines. No to forced vaccines. My body, my choice.
My body, my choice.
My body, my choice.
My body, my choice.
No discrimination! No segregation! No discrimination! No segregation! Nobody, my choice! No to force vaccine! Resist! Defy! We will not comply!
Fáilte an Saharéist and done more avoid so. Welcome today. We're on the eve of a very sinister period in history. Anyway, I'm going to speak myself later, but I'm also doubling up cheering. We're just going to have 3 people speaking here today, and a number of musicians. And at the end of the rally, you'll see we have 2 important announcements to make, and we'd like you to take them on board and stay around afterwards and make sure you leave your names and contact information, because they're going to be needed. We need to be highly organised in the coming period in order to stop this all-sided attack really on the life of the people. Okay, on board, yeah? Pero collection for to the in under dam hall so con kind clip no con magif.
Hello everyone.
Hello!
This weekend marks the beginning of a new phase in our history. Never before have we seen such discrimination and disregard for our fundamental human rights. We thought we had a right to privacy regarding our health and our medical status. We don't. We thought that informed consent was the principal and underlying medical treatment in Ireland. It isn't. We thought that we lived in a society of equality with respect for every person, regardless of their health or disability status. We don't. We thought our society was one of inclusivity. It isn't. It is shameful that these things are taken from us. No. The recent passing of the Medical Apartheid laws through the doctors has been another shameful episode. When renewing of the emergency powers before Leinster House, we saw that 6 so-called opposition TDs were missing from the vote. They never showed up. That allowed the government to renew the dictatorial laws which could have been stopped. The political parties operate a private, agreed pairing agreement. After backroom talks, secret from public view, they ignore their duty as TDs to represent, and they fail to defend our liberty. Last week, 18 TDs were missing from the vote when they decided to introduce the segregation laws. Nearly half of the senators were absent when the vote went to them. Whether these absent TDs or senators could have stopped the segregation laws isn't even the point. They should have been present and shouted down Martin, Varadkar and Ryan. They should have been present to represent their constituents as this important legislation was pushed through. Shame on them all. The final betrayal came from the man in the park. He who built his reputation on supporting equality rights, human rights and civil rights. Michael D was always outspoken when human rights were under attack in South America or in South Africa. But when it comes to Ireland, he is never on our side. He remains quiet as he sits in his Viceroy Lodge, living the life of an aristocrat, that very same as the British lords who lived there before him. Michael D is certainly not the President of the Irish Republic, proclaimed during Easter week 1916. He has turned his back on those ideals. He has turned his back on Ireland. Michael D has turned his back on the Irish people. Shame on him. On a more positive note, I would like to report to you about a vote that took place a week ago in Clonmel's Town Council. It sets an example that all councils should follow if they truly provide a forum for the democratic representation of local communities, as is their role according to our constitution. A motion was proposed in Clonmel by independent councillor Niall Dennehy, and it goes as follows. No apartheid in Clonmel. That there be no apartheid, discrimination, segregation or separation from any kind on medical grounds or other practice when Clonmel Borough District. Speaking about the motion, Councillor Dennehy highlighted that their own county museum has been marking and remembering the War of Independence from 100 years ago. He said we should be able to enjoy freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, and freedom of travel, freedom of bodily integrity, and the rule of law and justice. Councillor Dennehy remembered proudly that Clonmel Town had welcomed both Jim Larkin and James Connolly, Connolly having given his life to guarantee our civil rights. Liberty and to guarantee equal rights and equal opportunity for all our citizens and to cherish all of the children of the nation equally. He concluded, stating that Tipperary was steeped in traditions of the War of Independence and that they would never give up those principles or surrender those values to any unelected, overpaid officials in any circumstances. Councillor Dennehy has said he fully supports us and what we stand for here today, for truth and for equal status. He has set an example for others to follow. It's up to our city council now to follow Councillor Dennehy. So let me get all good.
I'd now like to introduce you to another lady, Catherine Pararton. This is a lady who's not so used to speaking in public, but I can tell you once you hear, she has a very relevant and strong story and experience to relate. So Corky Forter if Catherine Livordal.
Can you hear me? Yes. I'm not used to this now. Anyway, thank you for turning out. It's absolutely brilliant to see this crowd. We need more and more of it every single day. I'm not here because of the pubs and the restaurants. I don't care if I never see the inside of a pub again. I'm here. Yes, thank you. Yeah, thank you. I'm here for the vaccine passports. And I'm here because of the legislation. And in the legislation, Donnelly, right now, at any stage, can add any other venue he wants, indoor venue, and without going through the Oireachtas. That is atrocious. And in France and Italy, where if you're not vaccinated, you're not going to be able to go into supermarkets. So the food shopping is already gone. So they can add schools, shops, buses, hospitals, if it gets dark enough. There's no end to this. Absolutely no end to this. My situation and why I'm talking here is I'm actually a terminal cancer survivor. I was given 1 to 2 years to live. While I am in remission, I have to be constantly monitored because it come back at any stage, and it did. And basically, I can't take the vaccine, okay? And I'm not alone. There are loads of people cannot take this vaccine. Thank you. Including people that went out and took the first shot and were the worst phases of their lives. Are they now going to be forced to take the second one? How fair is that? So there's loads of people like me with medical conditions that can't take it. We go back to the legislation. The only way that you can get into a pub and into a restaurant come the 26th is if you're fully vaccinated or if you have recovered, i.e. the PCR test, you have to test positive and then test negative. While there were exemptions for face masks, there is no exemptions for vaccines, none. So basically, people that have medical conditions are going to be discriminated against because of their medical condition. How fair is that? Shame on us. Shame! Yes, thank you. Shame! 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 Now, added to that, you would think in our modern era, with modern technology, you would think they would have antigen testing or their PCR test to get into a pub or restaurant. Oh no, that's not planned at the moment. Mr. Varadkar has told us that he will look at it maybe in a few months, depending how the Delta variant goes. So how long is a piece of string? We've heard that one before. Now, one of the most important points, was my actually partner pointed it out, so I have to give him credit for this, is antibody testing. basically, if you've been recovered, you've got the COVID, maybe you didn't get the PCR test because you didn't even know you had it, for instance. So you got the COVID, you've recovered, and you now have antibodies, so you're naturally immune. And there's not even one mention of that. Not one mention of natural immunity. How far are we since March 2020? How many of us are already naturally immune to that? You know? That, all credit to my partner for that point. That, I would think, justifies looking into it. They're not even talking about it. That is potentially an end to this nightmare for everyone, even including the people that are still afraid and have got masks on them. And they're not even talking about antibody testing. And anyway, in relation to the PCR test and the antigen test, I've no intention of paying €100, even if it was there to get into a pub. Thanks very much. Now, get back to Mr. Donnelly again, right? Back to Mr. Donnelly again. Penny's up the road here. The dress I'm wearing is from Penny's, by the way. He could decide, okay, Catherine, I'm not allowing you into Penny's anymore. No new clothes for you. You survived terminal cancer, but we're not allowing you going into Penny's. Thanks a lot, Mr. Donnelly. And then I have to say, right, thank you. I'm talking too fast, sorry, it's the nerves. So anyway, okay, I have to ask this, right? Go back again, and I have to repeat this. So now, this legislation is going to discriminate against people with medical conditions because of their medical condition. And this is about public health, is it? This is public health? Well, it's not about my health, because I'll tell you now something. I am way more worried about what this government are doing than any cancer will ever do to me. And that's the truth. Thank you. Now, you will get these people. I found them on Twitter. Thanks very much, because you've educated me. They will tell me, oh, this is temporary. And Veronica will tell you it's temporary. I love that word. One small problem. What about that 2 weeks to flatten the curve? Give that one a thought. And I get to my final points. This is the biggest civil rights issue today. Sink that in, everybody, left, right, up and down. I don't care what part of the political spectrum you're on, and I'm apolitical. This is wrong. It's against everything we have worked towards in a democracy. So, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank yourself as well for coming out and standing up to this. So I have one question for the people of Ireland and the people of the world. Do you stand for papers, please? Or do you stand for freedom?